Take 3. Laoshi Laurince McElroy here for Water Tiger School of Taijiquan for our YouTube channel. A little bit late, sorta. The take 3 means that, yeah, we did this in a more timely fashion. The first take had to be eliminated. Well, we had to come out of the first take because we have a new addition to our family, a little kitten, and we let the group of furries downstairs as we were shooting the video, and 2 of them decided not to get along while we were shooting the video, so we stopped. And the second take didn't go very well. So anyway, it was complete, but I didn't like the finished product. So here we are again. Okay. So there you go. Some things to cover before we get going, and one is you'll need one of those. We're not going to move. Hardly at all. I'll move from where I'm sitting now to sitting in the chair, and that's it. And there's a reason for that. If you follow Water Tiger School on Facebook, you know a couple of weeks ago we had to cancel some classes and then announced, they would be continuing with some little changes. Well, what happened was a little over 2 weeks ago, I developed a limp. And that limp became so profound, I couldn't walk without a cane. After a couple of days of that, decided it would be best if I had it checked out. In 1993, in more or less a non-martial related accident, I say more or less because I was cleaning up a space that I was renting at the time, I fell and broke my left foot in 2 places, and in putting it back together, they put in 4 screws. Well, a little over 2.5 weeks ago, one of the screws broke. Ow. The broken screw itself is actually not the issue. Who knew this? Who knew that they could break? And 2, that it isn't really the broken screw that's the issue. It's the fact that the screw broke. I know that sounds weird. It's not the only weird thing you'll hear from the side of the video today. But the fact that the screw broke was sort of like an internal toe stub or an internal heel stomp. Probably the second one is the better image. And it caused trauma to all of the tissue and tendons and stuff in the foot surrounding where the screw was in the bone. And hence my pain and hence my inability to walk. It's much better now, but I'm still under, at this time, orders from the doctor to take it easy. So I move as little as I have to. So anyway, it was fortuitous that that today's topic was what was in the queue. We're going to address the use of imagination in our play. And by that I mean, for the first part anyway, it's kind of in 2 parts, 1 video, 2 parts to the video. The first part is practice with our imagination. And the second, more esoteric, kind of general, and we'll talk about that when we get to it, is using the imagination to help with chi cultivation and flow through the body. So there you go. That's what we're going to do. So, if you don't have a chair, a comfortable place to sit in a comfortable way, because you need to be, comfortable to do this, we will, you might want to hit pause and then come back after you get your chair. And I will do a couple of things here. I'm going to get a drink, finish my usual pre-session mint. Sometimes I forget to do that. And while I'm closer to the camera, I will also do what has almost become a ritual. I will tell you again, I'm starting to run out of t-shirts to keep it different. Chuck Reagan and the camaraderie. Yes, it's a concert. It's music tea. If you don't know Chuck, and the camaraderie is sort of, folk country rock, but really good. You should check them out. And if you like to fish, Chuck is a big fishing person. I don't know what that means. So anyway, I'm going to move back to the chair. So, years and years ago, in an earlier life, when I was in the theater, my undergraduate theater prof, and talking about learning lines, that's what you say when you're on stage, and learning blocking, that's how your movement is determined on stage, usually in conjunction with the director, that sort of thing. They set the movement, and the movement is as firm, usually, not always, in a show, as the lines were written by the playwright. So he suggested the way to do that was to simply, get in a comfortable spot, um, close your eyes, focus, run your lines and your blocking in your head. And he said, when you do that and you're focused in doing that, the body really doesn't know that it's not moving, and you'll start to associate the movements with the words and build a sense of internal muscle memory. And I know that sounds weird, maybe as weird as the foot, maybe not quite as weird as the foot. However, sorry, that was English. A Harvard neuroscientist has shown that when you focus and on movement in your mind, you actually activate the prefrontal motor cortex. And the body, as Charles W. Dixon Jr., my undergraduate, said, Charlie, there's a shout out from my undergraduate theater prof. The body doesn't know it's not moving. So I've actually used that before it really sort of became part of what we do at Water Tiger School, what we talk about at Water Tiger School. Because a little less back in the day, I used to have an office job. And from where I lived, I was taking the bus to get to the downtown area where I was working. And I found that, I'd get on the bus, drop my butt in the seat, close my eyes, and begin doing Water Tiger School's 10-piece Tai Chi Qigong breathing set, which is a mixed set from stationary Tai Chi Qigong. It's mixed from a primary and coiling set that we've been doing for as long as there has been Water Tiger School. And I would sit there, and of course I wouldn't actually do any of the movements, no expanding chest to cleanse the body, no pouring Chi to the Dantian, no settling Chi through the Bak Wei, pouring Chi through the Bak Wei, settling Chi to the Dantian, none of that. None of the movement. But I would see the movement. I'd feel the movement, every aspect of the movement, the viscosity of the air, the breath and the movement together. And I would finish that, timing it out almost at what a set should be, which is about 15, 20 minutes, to the arrival time downtown. And let me tell you, I was the most centered cat when I got off that bus. Given my job, it didn't always last very long as the morning continued, but it was a wonderful experience. So we've always sort of talked about that. But it's become more of a through line through things Tai Chi. If for some reason you're not supposed to be ambulatory, you get comfortable, focus, do your movement in your mind, your breath, see yourself. Some would suggest that you want to see yourself moving perfectly. As a matter of fact, other studies have been done for people for whom movement causes pain, that if they imagine themselves do the same process that we're talking about and imagine themselves moving without pain, they'll actually find in 3D in real life, they'll start to have a little bit, or in some cases, a profound amount of change in their level of pain. As always, mileage may vary. So there are all sorts of applications of this. I will also, at the top of this, say it is another way to enhance your memory when you leave your studio, when you leave your class, public studio, whatever it is. If you find yourself having, always get home, I joke about this all the time, that, I hope you're really excited about what you learned in class today. And you're going to leave the room, you're going to leave the studio, and it's like, oh God, I can't wait to get home and practice some of this stuff. And then you get home and go, what the hell did we do in class today? So, there's a certain process we can go through to sort of help trigger that. But if you take the time, if you ride the bus home, if you take an Uber or a Lyft, or if you're driving yourself, don't do it while you're driving, okay? But when you go out in the parking lot, sit there for a while before you leave in your car, close your eyes, and see yourself doing the movement that you just finished doing toward the end of class. And then go home and physicalize it as soon as possible. And that can help you retain what it is that you did, learned, to which you were introduced in that particular class for that particular day. So hopefully you're all comfortable, right? I usually take sort of a seated meditation position when I do this. So some people will use it as a way to focus their mind. So it helps take their day away, the day that they've had, the day that they might have the next day. And it helps them to do this before they go to sleep because it just brings their mind away from other things. Hopefully you don't fall asleep in the middle of your form. You get to the closing before you fall asleep, because otherwise that's not quite what we want to do. That means in some ways the mind is not entirely focused, so be careful with that. But you want to be comfortable. You want to choose what it is that you're going to do, right? So a lot of times in this series, we've done walking exercises, and we always talk. And I'm going to externalize some of this movement in the chair that I wouldn't do if I was doing this strictly in my head, and what we'll talk about, right? So many times we say that we want to start in a Tai Chi-like fashion. So instead of just sort of physically getting to everything and stopping and then taking your first step, you sort of bounce your weight into your left and then slide into the right, turning that right foot out to the 45. And then whatever your ready moment is for that particular walk, then move into your first step. So that's what you would want to imagine, every aspect of it. Feel the weight of your body into the earth, the connection points of your feet to the earth, the way it feels for the left leg to feel that compression as it takes the weight and bounce the weight into the right foot. Feel the turn on the heel, turning the toes out, and the weight going into the right foot. In specific detail, every aspect. So whatever it is, what we just talked about, I'm going to talk about opening the 24. Now, again, our opening, Water Tiger School's opening is a little bit different, a little bit more formal than some, a little bit less formal than others. But I'll throw in some of the details, but there's so much going on that you can picture in your mind more than I can verbalize externally to you. So just keep that in mind. So you want to take time to relax. You want to take time to focus. So actually a little meditation. I about said mini meditation, but I don't know if mini meditation is really correct in this instance. Because it needs to be whatever time it is that it takes. So now I'm seeing and feeling myself move into my ready position, which means my feet are relatively close together, almost touching, if not touching. Knees are open. Chest is sunk back, is rounded. Chin from its parallel position slightly down, so the crown point of the head feels held to the heavens, and I feel that. The perineum, the Hu Yin, the bottom of the sea, is anchored toward the earth. Weight is equally distributed between the 2 feet. My usual nail points in the feet, the hands, cupped, palm over on the top, on top of the Shiadantian acupuncture point, in the lower portion of my abdomen. I'm feeling the weight of my arms settling into my hands, settling into my belly. I feel my breath and my body as one. And with the decision, slowly allow my hands to release from the Xia Dan Tian and elongate, but they're still together as my weight shifts into my right foot. As my hands separate, left to the left, right to the right, my left foot goes out to the ball of the foot on shoulder wide. I feel it touch down. As the hands float up, out, and over the top of a beach ball filled with helium, I center my body between my feet. As the hands roll in, my heel starts to descend and the left foot starts to take more weight, rolling from the ball of the foot into the instep, into the heel, and then I'm redistributing weight between both feet as the hands descend, feeling the hands descend, feeling the viscosity of the air. Up a second time, I feel that internal undulation as the hands rise up and out. In a second time, and I do a weighted turn on the ball of the right foot as the hands press down. The left foot releases the weight into the right foot, feeling the twist on the ball of the right foot as it takes the weight. The right hand sweeps up to the top of forming the first ball for parting the wild horse's mane. The left hand pulls in the left leg without, of course, touching it, but together to form the bottom of the ball. As the ball is formed, the foot comes in, it bounces back out. The left heel touches down at shoulder width, and I move into my first four stance. Right foot pressing the weights through the body into the left foot from the heel through the instep to the ball of the foot. The hips rotate, the shoulders rotate. The right hand sinks down into that sort of dribbling the basketball position. The left hand rises up, forming that bumper. Both arms, both hands feeling as if a bow in different ways. And again, that was not nearly enough words for everything that one feels as they're moving through. All the aspects of six directional force, of something forward, something back, something left, something right. I use the image of the bow on purpose so you feel the bow that is created in that for us, for Parting Wild Horse's Mane, for Water Tiger School, the outside of the bow, the inside of the bow, the inside of the bow, the outside of the bow, within those two arms. The intent has to be there, the focus has to be there, everything has to be there. And you just continue on. Whether it's a floor exercise or a form, maybe it's just form to date, and that's fine. Maybe it's a walking exercise, maybe it's the Tai Chi walk, maybe it's walking the rails, maybe it's walking the rails with a rotation. Feel every aspect, picture it in your mind, feel it in your mind, and you will reap some, if not many, of the rewards you would if you were actually doing the movement. So that's the first part. That's the practical half of today's little presentation. The more esoteric is using your imagination. We've talked about this before in the very early days when we were talking about the 5 root goals of Tai Chi and Qigong. All the way back, that was the first series, I think, in March of 2020, when we focused on regulating the Chi. We sort of talked about the use of imagery. So a little bit of this will be rehashed. And I just want to say, warning, 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 danger Will Robinson, right? If you have a blockage, if you have a stagnation, if you are ill, sometimes the use of imagery, if we are not careful, can cause issues. Now, for instance, a lot of times people will tend to think, if I'm thinking about an energy expanding from the Xia Dan Tian, it's from the Xia Dan Tian. So it all leaves the Xia Dan Tian. Kind of like it's one of the dangers of the way that we talk about the image breath, because we talk about the image breath as breathing. And when you really truly breathe, you inhale, you're bringing stuff in, you exhale, and it all goes away. Problem being, if, for instance, you're low on kidney energy, maybe you have a kidney issue, kidney cancer, whatever, it's the middle of winter because kidney energy tends to wane in the winter, and you imagine the energy leaving that lower cavity, it's probably not going to be good. You may end up actually fainting. The thing is, you're fainting because the energy's left. The mind is sort of clicked in and go, hey, stop it. The mind stops you. you're unconscious for a little while, you're a little incoherent for a little while, and as you start to come back up out of it, the energy is settled back down because you're no longer telling it to leave, right? The chi goes where the mind goes. So when we were imagining energy from the Xia Dan Tian, the energy is still in the Xia Dan Tian. It's expanding out and coming back in. It's not leaving and coming back in. It's threading out through the body and coming back in. And a lot of this presentation, for that particular reason, is going to be a little more general than some of you may like. Right? We could talk. We could focus on, okay, let's activate the heart meridian. Well, then you all have to know where the heart meridian is, or the liver meridian, or the lung meridian, whatever. So we're going to talk more in a couple of one sort of specific thing, because it's relatively universal, and then a general sort of grand circulation idea of the image. So you want to find something that works for you, right? I've talked about the image breath. Water tigers kind of moved away from that because of the particular danger that it might present some people in misunderstanding what the direction really means. So we tend to use the image of like a flower opening up. The petals don't leave the flower, right? The petals expand to the extremities and then come back. And yes, in some energy work, we talk about in the Standing 8 Pieces of Brocade, if you're in Screw the Fist with Fiery Eyes, the energy isn't stopping there. It's continuing to expand out. But again, as it comes back in, it is coming back in. And as it expands out, it's not waning from the Xia Dan Tian. So you have to find an image that works for you. I know I said that, a little redundancy here. I continue to throw out image after image after image for many things because you never know what's going to connect. I talk in Water Tiger School's Tai Chi, Qigong, Reeling Silk. No, I'm sorry, wrong one. Fragrant Qigong set, the intermediate set, there's a specific way of moving the lower body. Sorry, a little brain glitch. I was going to tell you what day of the week is, but never mind. It's just a morning brain glitch. And the hips move, but the shoulders are still, so the hips move. And I've always said sort of like a washing machine agitator, an old-fashioned washing machine agitator. I grew up in an era where my mother had the big white sort of porcelain washing machine and the two tin tubs with the Clairol, not Clairol because it's laundry, not hair, with the blue rinse and that sort of thing, and the big ringers in the washing machine. So I'm very familiar with that washing machine agitator. But some people in class aren't. Maybe they just don't. Maybe they don't wash their clothes very often, or they weren't around when agitators were there. They're not really that prominent, I don't think, in washing machines. I haven't seen one in our washing machine for, I don't know, last 2 or 3 washing machines that we've had. So anyway, I digress. It wasn't connecting with everybody. And sort of in a funny way, I said, well, think of it as a swivel bar stool that, just swivels. And somebody went, oh, I understand bar stool. So you have to find the image that works for you. The reason that my mind drifted to the Reeling Silk set, the Tai Chi Qigong Reeling Silk set, is that I often use the image for the first movement. And I'm externalizing a little bit, but it's this kind of movement that's sort of under the skin as sort of the BB or the pebble or whatever it is that moves around a hula hoop. And again, not really connecting with some people. Could be because, never really was successful in doing a hula hoop. Now, I was never successful in doing the hula hoop either, but I'm successful in doing this, and I can connect with what a hula hoop movement should be, what that BB going around the hula hoop is. I can connect with the image. I don't have to actually experience the ability to do the hula hoop. So anyway, so find the image that works for you. Maybe it's the BB. In the Reeling Silk, we do a circulation that sort of resembles small circulation, but it stops. That doesn't stop. It moves through. It's more or less around It moves up through the body and ends up at the base of the neck and moving around like that. So a planet orbiting, maybe it's a planet orbit. Maybe it's a little bit of warmth. You feel that warmth move down. You feel it roll back up the back. You feel it move down. Maybe it's a color that you can see the color flow throughout, but there's one point that's a little bit like the head of the color. So it's a more intense blue, a more intense red, a more intense fuchsia. Maybe it's the image of the fish underneath the skin. Or, as long as you don't have, I think the right term is ophidiophobia, for fear of snakes. I'm not sure what it would be for fear of fish. But, a snake moving through the body. So whatever works. The image, the warmth, the coolness, a breeze, and picture it quite well. This is a way, if you do not feel your own chi move, which comes with time, keeping in mind that there's an old saying, I don't remember it verbatim, I don't even remember from where I got this, but it'll probably take, it might have been my sifu, it probably take 5 or 10 years to feel your chi for the first time. And then probably another 5 or 10 years to believe that that's what you actually felt. So the use of imagery, the chi goes where the mind goes, helps you achieve a connection to the movement of the chi without necessarily feeling the chi. And then the two tend to switch, and then the image starts to fade as you start to actually recognize that the chi is being cultivated, is moving through the body. So I mentioned small circulation before. That's where we're going to start. And the small circulation expands the little vertical orbit that I was talking about to coming up over the top of the head. Now, different people place different aspects of the small circulation within acupuncture points and that sort of thing through the body. A lot of people have the yin conception vessel ending at the perineum, at the hu yin, and then the yang governing vessel beginning at that point. Some people carry it around to the Ming Men, which for Water Tiger School is a point on the spine equivalent to where the point of the Xia Dan Tian acupuncture point is. So that's possible. Water Tiger School, however, not quite at the Ming Men, but not at the perineum, not at the hu yin. We actually rise up through the glutes, the space between the glutes, to a point that's just a little bit above the anal cleft and a little bit below the Ming Men. And that's where our yang governing vessel begins. Now, the yang governing vessel ends at the roof of the mouth. The yin conception vessel begins at the bottom of the mouth, which is one of the reasons, sort of the more esoteric reasons, the tip of the tongue should touch the roof of the mouth. Some people put that point in the soft palate. To us, that creates too much tension. Tension gets in the way of the flow of chi. We see the acupuncture point as being at the hard palate, just behind the upper teeth. I've heard from more than one acupuncturist, acupuncturists. If somebody asks them, where exactly is that point? Well, where do you think it is? And they'll tell you that's where the point is. But anyway, so there you go. So our small circulation begins, as I mentioned, at the bottom of the mouth. So we're going to imagine that orbit just underneath the skin, going through the legs, through the cheeks, the vertical smile, just underneath the Ming Men, and then the yang governing vessel takes over to bring it up over the top of the head to the roof of the mouth and continue. It passes through the tongue. So play with that, whatever image it is. Now, you might notice the pattern that I'm going is up the back, up the yang governing vessel, and down the yin conception vessel. We can go both ways. We're bidirectional in the conception, in the small circulation, sorry. But our fundamental way is that pathway. So whatever pathway you choose, forward or back. Again, focusing the mind. And then we're going to do the yin conception vessel on an inhale, so find an exhale. And then inhale and feel that movement, picture it. Again, color, snake, fish, moving down through the cheeks, up the back, up over the top of the head. On the exhalation, sorry. Inhalation down. Reaching the point between the anal cleft and the Ming Men and become an exhalation. And up over the top. Maybe you're seeing a planet descend. There is no descent really in space. And a rise of that planet. Sort of like the Xia Dan Tian. Well, not really. The center of the body, I think, would work more for whatever it is that you're open orbiting. But whatever that is, I'm going to quit with the visual. Color, red. See a bright red dot, like a laser pointer, going down the front of your body on the inhalation. Through the legs, up the vertical smile. And then on the exhalation, the dot travels up the spine, up over the top of the head, and goes around again. So visualizing that energy flow. So that's small circulation. And again, water tiger's main direction is up the back, down the front, but we also do reverse. Grand circulation. You can be relatively specific here. There are some pathways that some people dictate, but again, we're staying general, just sorted to be safe. And just out to the extremities, up to the crown point of the head, out to the palms of the hands and to the fingers, out to the balls of the feet and throughout the feet and their connection to the earth. And again, whatever image you want. And again, some people will say the expansion should come on the inhalation and the compression, or the and the compression on the exhalation. There are times for that. But again, Water Tiger School's basic approach to grand circulation is a compression to the Xia Dan Tian, a return to the Xia Dan Tian. And I know, again, return sounds like it's left. That's why I usually these days do my best to stick more with compression than return. But the compression of the Xia Dan Tian on the inhalation and the expansion out to the extremities on the exhalation. Snake would probably work, or a fish, or something that covers a specific pathway if you have a specific pathway that you can follow. But again, being more general, I just want a general sense of expansion of that color. Take a few moments, breathe. Is it color? Is it a warmth? Is it a coolness? Is it a breeze? That right now, the source of that breeze, that coolness, that warmth, that color, that flower is all in the Xia Dan Tian. All in that cavity, that esoteric ball that sets in the cup of the hips. Not the acupuncture point. This doesn't come from the acupuncture point for the Xia Dan Tian. That's just the acupuncture point. To Water Tiger School, the Xia Dan Tian's center is on a line between the crown point of the head and the base of the pelvic bowl. So in the body cavity. So whatever that is, picture it. Color, warmth, coolness. A flower that is currently just pulsing on the exhale, not really opening, but coming open subtly. And on an inhale, closing back up. So just like a heart beating. There's another image for you. The Xia Dan Tian is a heart that sends its blood out to the extremities on the exhalation and draws it back through the heart on the inhalation. So a few breaths, solidifying that image, whatever it is for you, whatever may work. And again, not leaving the Xia Dan Tian, not leaving it lonesome, expanding out, which again, if you have the color, you have the most intense color in the Xia Dan Tian. You have the base of the flower, the center of the bloom in the Dan Tian. The heart, full of energy, pulsing to send energy out and drawing the energy sent out back in without weakening itself. So a few more breaths. And on the next inhalation, it's your last inhalation before the exhalation expands and opens, extends through the body to the extremities, and then on the inhalation, compressing back into the Shivadanti. And then on the exhalation, pulsing out. And then on the inhalation, returning. And then on the exhalation, pulsing out. And then on the inhalation, returning. 3 more pulses. Out and back. Expanding out. Compressing back. Petals of the flower, last time. Sun rises, sending the sun rays out to the body. Sun sets. But the sun is still there. We're going to do one more. The sun image was noon, the sun rises, or whatever you're doing. Sets. And then bring the consciousness back into this now, as opposed to your internal now. And there you go. The use of imagination, practically in helping to perform, hone, polish your forms and floor exercises, and maybe your Qigong sets as well. Again, worked really well for Tai Chi, for Water Tiger School's Tai Chi Qigong breathing set for me. And it's also a way, if you're in a Qigong program, to help you better understand the movement, and a combination with the esoteric part of this, the Qi circulation, as you're doing that particular set. So remember, as always, be careful. You know your body, you know your mind, you know what you're feeling as you're feeling, and if something feels weird, stop. Take a breath, maybe walk away from it for a while, come back, enter into it, maybe a little bit more carefully. So the use of imagination in your Tai Chi and Qigong from Water Tiger School. So I hope you enjoyed this little session on imagination. I will imagine that you did. But I don't have to imagine that you did. We will post a link to this on our Facebook page where the comments are open. We still ask you not to flame us, to address us respectfully. But we do screen all the comments on the YouTube channel, as we say at the end of almost every video we've done, because the YouTube screening algorithms don't seem to catch things like links to, shall we say, temperate dates, a certain temperature, and kind of companionship. So anyway, we did good or bad, as long as, again, it's respectful in either direction. We let the comments pass through. We're still kind of doing these about every 2 weeks. We've been thinking about spreading it out further. But the current situation seems to be that, it's probably best if we do this more or less on a 2-week basis. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll see what it is. We still have some Tai Chi stuff in the queue. We still have a lot of animal frolics in the queue, which sort of points us to thinking that might be next. Something from the animal frolics. So we'll see. I ask you, as always, please, when you're outside, regardless of your vaccination status, when you're out and about, it's still a good idea to mask up. It's still a good idea to maintain physical distance. It's still a good idea to have, if you do have people over that, with whom you feel comfortable, that things are okay, that things are safe with them, that you still ventilate your house, your home, and that sort of thing. Because that's what the actual medical scientific experts are telling us. And that's my one little soapbox moment. Hope you had fun. I hope this was helpful, informative, maybe at times a little entertaining. Sort of, weird stuff. I know. We started with weird with how, a broken screw doesn't matter, but the fact that it broke does. What do you got? Thank you very much for your time and attention. Catch you next time.